Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the stars. The USS Harmony was not like other ships in space. It had no big guns or heavy armor. Instead, it carried medical supplies, food, and hope to anyone who needed help. "Captain, we're getting a message from the Galactic Council," said Commander Nick Carter. He was a tall man with kind eyes, who used to be a soldier. Now he helped solve problems with words, instead of weapons. Jake nodded and pressed a button. The blue face of Council Speaker Tellini's appeared on the screen. The alien looked worried. "Captain Morrison, we need your help again. The Vethans and Zephyrhites are fighting over the Kilos asteroid field. Both sides are ready for war. We need human mediation before blood is spilled." Jake smiled. This was what humans did best. "We'll be there in 2 days. Speaker, tell both sides to wait for us." Dr. Lisa Hayes walked onto the bridge. She was the ship's doctor and one of the best healers in the galaxy. Her hands had saved thousands of lives, both human and alien. "Jake, I've prepared medical supplies for both species, just in case talks don't go well." This was how it had been for over 200 years. When the galaxy had problems, they called humans, not because humans were the strongest or smartest, but because they cared. They really cared about everyone, no matter what they looked like or where they came from. The Harmony jumped to light speed and reached the Kilos system quickly. 2 fleets faced each other across empty space. The Vethan ships looked like giant crystals that glowed with inner light. The Zephyrite vessels were round and silver, built for beings who breathed gas instead of air. Jake put on his best uniform and took a shuttle between the 2 fleets. Nick and Lisa came with him. They had done this many times before. The meeting happened on a neutral space station. The Vethan leader, Crystalline Prime Hexnala, towered over everyone. Her body was made of living crystal that changed colors with her emotions. Right now, she glowed angry red. "The Kilos field belongs to my people," she said. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. "We found it first. We have the right to mine it." Fleet Commander Zixportal of the Zephyrhites floated in his environmental suit. His people looked like jellyfish made of gas. "Your claim means nothing. Our scanners show the field contains rare elements we need to survive. Without them, our children will die." Jake sat between them at the round table. This was always the hardest part. Both sides thought they were right. Both sides had good reasons to fight, but fighting never solved anything. "Prime Hexnala, how much of the asteroid field do your people need?" Jake asked. The crystal being's colors shifted to thoughtful blue. "Perhaps 60%. The outer rim contains the metals we require for our cities." Jake turned to the Zephyrite commander. "And your people need the gas clouds around the asteroids." "Yes. The inner fields produce the gases we breathe. Without them, we cannot expand our population." Lisa spoke up. "It sounds like you need different parts of the same place. Maybe you can share it." Both aliens looked at her like she was crazy. Nick leaned forward. "In human space, we have mining agreements all the time. Different species work the same areas for different resources. Everyone benefits." Jake pulled out a holographic display of the asteroid field. "Look here. The Vethans need the solid rocks. The Zephyrhites need the gas clouds between them. You're not really fighting over the same thing." For the next 6 hours, they worked out a plan. The Vethans would mine the asteroids. The Zephyrhites would collect the gases their mining released. Both sides would share the profits 50-50. They would even help protect each other from space pirates who might attack the mining operations by the end of the day. Both leaders were shaking hands, while Hexnala touched her crystal fingers to Zixportal's suit in their version of a handshake. "Once again, humans show us the way to peace," Hexnala said. Her crystal body now glowed warm gold. "The galaxy is lucky to have your people back." On the Harmony, Jake sat in his quarters reading reports. Humans had solved 17 major conflicts this year alone. They had also rescued 4,000 beings from natural disasters and given medical aid to 12 different species. Sometimes I wonder what the galaxy was like before humans joined the council, Lisa said as she brought him coffee. Nick laughed from the doorway. Probably a lot more violent. The history books say there was a war somewhere every month before we showed up. Jake sipped his coffee and thought about it. Humans had been in space for 300 years now. For the first 100, they had fought among themselves. Then they met other species and realized fighting was stupid when there was so much universe to explore together. The Galactic Council had been suspicious of humans at first. Most species joined by conquering others, or by being so advanced that everyone feared them. Humans joined by making friends. They helped anyone who asked and never wanted anything in return, except friendship. Now, human colonies existed all over the galaxy. They were different from other worlds. On human planets, any species could live together in peace. Humans built special cities where beings who breathed different gases or needed different temperatures could all live as neighbors. Earth itself had become a pilgrimage site. Aliens came from across the galaxy to see the world that had produced such a peaceful people. They wanted to understand how one species could be so good at bringing others together. The secret was simple, though most aliens didn't understand it. Humans had learned to see other beings as people, not as aliens. It didn't matter if someone had crystal skin, breathed gas, or had tentacles instead of arms. If they could think and feel, humans treated them like family. This attitude had made humans the most trusted species in the galaxy. Human ships could go anywhere without fear. Human colonies welcomed refugees from all over the universe. Human mediators solved problems that had caused wars for centuries. Jake finished his coffee and prepared for sleep. Tomorrow, they would receive another call for help, and the Harmony would answer it. That was what humans did. They helped, but in the dark corners of the galaxy, not everyone was happy with human influence. Some beings thought humans were too soft, too kind, too willing to help others. These beings preferred the old ways. When power came from fear and strength, they would soon learn that human kindness was not the same as human weakness. But for now, the galaxy was at peace, and that was enough. Chairman Vexgorth stood 8 feet tall, and his skin was covered in thick black scales. His red eyes glowed with anger as he watched the council meeting records. The Kroner General crushed the datapad in his massive claws. Another human success, he growled to the empty room. Another problem solved with their soft words and gentle ways. The door opened, and 2 other powerful beings entered. Scythic trade magnate Zilrothic looked like a giant spider made of metal. His 8 legs clicked on the floor as he moved. Behind him floated Nexari Prime Calculator, Cancerius, a being of pure energy contained in a transparent shell. You watched. The kilo's resolution? Zilrothic asked. His voice sounded like grinding gears. I did, Vexgorth replied. The Vethans and Zephyrite were ready for war. Good, profitable war. Instead, the humans waved their hands, and suddenly everyone is friends. Cancerius pulsed with cold blue light. Human interference cost us significant revenue. War drives technology development. Peace makes beings lazy and content. These 3 represented the real power in the Galactic Council. For thousands of years, they had controlled the galaxy through fear, money, and technology. The Kroner Empire conquered worlds and forced them to pay tribute. The Scythic Consortium controlled trade and made sure prices stayed high. The Nexari Collective sold advanced weapons to anyone with enough credits. But humans were changing everything. Look at this report, Vexgorth said, throwing another datapad on the table. 17 conflicts resolved this year. 17 opportunities for profit lost because humans convinced everyone to talk instead of fight. Zilrothic's mechanical eyes focused on the data. It's worse than that. 3 species have refused our protection contracts because they trust humans to keep them safe. For free. The economic impact is severe, Ken Sirius added. Weapon sales are down 40%. Medical supply sales are down 60% because humans give away their services. Vex Koroth began pacing around the room. His heavy footsteps shook the floor. But the worst part is how other species look at humans, like they're heroes, like they're better than us. On the human colony world of New Haven, Kate Williams didn't know about the angry meeting happening light years away. She was too busy, helping a family of Altian refugees plant their first crop in human soil. The Altians looked like tall, thin elves, with silver skin and large purple eyes. They had fled their homeworld after the Kroner Empire took control and began using their people as slaves. The soil here is rich, Kate said, kneeling down to show the young Altian boy how to plant seeds. Your family will grow beautiful food here. The boy's father, Kelmaran, watched with tears in his eyes. On our world, Kroner overseers would beat us if we grew food for ourselves. Here, you teach us to feed our families. Kate stood up and brushed dirt from her hands. She was a simple agricultural specialist, but she had helped hundreds of refugee families start new lives. Everyone deserves to eat. Everyone deserves to be safe. Tony Blake, her partner, and the colony's chief engineer, walked over with building plans. The new housing district will be ready in 3 months. We're designing it to accommodate 12 different species. New Haven was one of 47 human colonies that welcomed refugees. The planets were marvels of engineering. Humans had built cities where air-breathing and gas-breathing species could live side by side. They created special zones for beings who needed different temperatures or gravity levels. Most importantly, they treated everyone the same. It didn't matter if you were a powerful warrior or a simple farmer. If you needed help, humans would give. This was causing problems across the galaxy. On Kroner-controlled worlds, slaves began asking why they couldn't live like the beings in human space. On Scythic trade stations, workers demanded fair wages like humans paid their employees. On Nexari research facilities, scientists wanted to share their discoveries freely instead of selling them to the highest bidder. Humans are spreading a disease, Vexkorth told his allies. A disease of hope. They make other species think they deserve better lives. Zilrothic's mechanical arms gestured angrily. My trade routes report constant talk of human colonies. Beings want to leave their homeworlds and go live with humans. This disrupts the labor force. They speak of human concepts like freedom and dignity, Ken Sirius added. These ideas are inefficient. They reduce productivity. The 3 leaders had ruled through different methods, but they had one thing in common. They believed that most beings were meant to serve, not to be happy. The strong took from the weak, and that was natural law. Humans had different ideas. Back on New Haven, Kate was reading bedtime stories to refugee children. The kids came from 6 different species, but they all loved the same human stories about heroes who helped others and villains who learned to be good. Why do humans always help others in stories? Asked a young Zephyrite, whose voice sounded like whistling wind. Kate thought about it. Because helping others is what makes us happy. When you're sad, we're sad. When you're happy, we're happy. Tony watched from the doorway as Kate tucked the children into their beds. Each bed was specially designed for different species' needs. The Altian children slept on soft mattresses, while the crystal-born Vethan child rested on a bed of warm sand. This was what humans did everywhere. They saw the individual needs of every being and tried to meet them. Other species saw groups and categories. Humans saw people. The request came in today, Tony said quietly, after the children were asleep. Kate looked up. Which one? The Altians want to formally leave the Kroner Empire and join the Human Federation. They're asking for our protection. Kate felt her heart skip. This was different from taking in refugees. This was asking humans to directly challenge the Council's authority. What did Earth say? They're thinking about it. But Kate, there are 12 other species ready to make the same request. They all want human protection instead of council rule. Meanwhile, in the council chambers, Vex-Korath received the same news. His roar of rage could be heard 3 floors away. They dare, he screamed. They dare to steal our subjects. Zilrothic's mechanical voice was cold. The Alteens generate significant revenue through forced labor. Losing them would cost billions. This ends now, Vex-Korath declared. Humans have overstepped their bounds. They think their kindness makes them strong. We will show them what real strength looks like. Ken Sirius pulsed with red energy. What do you propose? We give them a choice. Stop interfering with our business, or face the consequences. And if they refuse? Zilrothic asked. Vex-Korath's lips pulled back to show rows of sharp teeth. Then we remind the galaxy why they used to fear us, and we teach humans that kindness is a luxury they can't afford. The 3 leaders began planning their ultimatum. They believed humans were weak because they chose peace. They thought human kindness came from an inability to fight. They were about to learn how wrong they were. But for now, on New Haven, Kate Williams continued reading stories to refugee children. Tony Blake designed new homes for families seeking safety. And across human space, millions of beings lived in peace under human protection. None of them knew that this peace was about to be tested in ways they had never imagined. Admiral Paul Rodriguez had commanded the Human Defense Fleet for 15 years. He was a calm man who preferred diplomatic solutions to military ones. That's why the message waiting on his desk made his blood run cold. Report to the Galactic Council chambers immediately. This is not a request. The message came with the seals of all 3 major powers. Paul had never seen anything like it. In 200 years of human membership, the Council had never summoned anyone with such harsh language. Paul put on his dress uniform and took the fastest ship to the Council homeworld. During the journey, he tried to guess what this was about. Had humans accidentally broken some old law? Had they interfered with something they shouldn't have? The council chambers were massive, designed to hold representatives from hundreds of species. But today, only the 3 most powerful leaders sat at the central table. Paul felt very small as he walked to the witness stand. Chairman Vex-Korath stood up. His black scales gleamed under the chamber lights. Admiral Rodriguez, your species has become a problem. Paul kept his voice steady. I'm sorry to hear that. Chairman, what can we do to help? You can stop, Zilrothic said. His metal legs clicked as he moved forward. Stop taking our workers. Stop solving our conflicts. Stop spreading your dangerous ideas. I don't understand, Paul replied. We only help those who ask for help. Ken Sirius pulsed with angry red light. Your help destabilizes established order. Productivity decreases when beings believe they deserve comfort and safety. Vex-Korath slammed his massive fist on the table. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. The Alteens belong to the Kroner Empire. They work our mines and farms. Now they want to leave because humans promised them a better life. Everyone deserves a better life, Paul said quietly. No, Vex-Korath roared. The strong rule, the weak serve. This is natural law. Humans corrupt this truth with their soft words and false promises. Zilrothic began reading from a datapad. The Human Federation will immediately cease all refugee assistance programs. Human colonies will stop accepting beings who flee their rightful governments. Human ships will no longer respond to distress calls without council approval. Paul felt his heart pounding. You're asking us to abandon people who need help. We are ordering you, Ken Sirius corrected. These demands are not negotiable. Vex-Korath stepped closer to Paul. The alien was twice his size and smelled like burning metal. Furthermore, all human colonies will submit to council oversight. We will place governors on your worlds to ensure compliance with galactic law. What? Law? Paul asked. What have we broken? You have become too influential, Zilrothic replied. Your peaceful methods weaken other species. They forget their place in the natural order. Paul looked around the empty chamber. Usually, dozens of species had representatives here. Today, only the 3 most powerful ones remained. Where are the other council members? This matter concerns only the primary powers, Vex Karath said. You have 30 standard days to comply with our demands. If you refuse, we will take appropriate action. What kind of action? Paul asked. QE, Unsirius's energy form flashed brighter. The kind that reminds the galaxy why humans became peaceful. Because they feared what would happen if they remained. Warriors. Paul felt something cold in his stomach. These beings thought humans chose peace because they were afraid to fight. They had no idea how wrong they were. The message traveled quickly to Earth, then to every human colony in the galaxy. On New Haven, Kate Williams sat in her kitchen with tears in her eyes as Tony Blake read the council's demands. They want us to stop helping people, she whispered. They want us to turn away families who come here for safety. Tony put down the message and looked out the window. In the distance, Altian children played with human kids in the colony's main park. Zephyrite families tended gardens next to Vethan. Crystal growers. Everyone lived together in peace. Kate, what do we do if they force those families to go back? Kate thought about little Kelmaran, the Altian boy she had taught to plant seeds. His father had shown her scars from Kroner whips. His mother still woke up screaming from nightmares about the slave camps. We can't send them back, she said. I won't do it. Similar conversations happened on every human world. Dr. Maria Santos, Earth's chief ambassador, spent days in emergency meetings with the human government. The choice was impossible. Submit to the council's demands and betray everything humans believed in, or refuse and face the combined might of the galaxy's 3 most powerful empires. President Linda Morgan called an emergency session of the Human Parliament. Representatives from every colony attended by hologram. The debate was fierce, but short. The council thinks we became peaceful because we're weak, said the representative from New Terra. They don't understand that we chose kindness because we're strong enough to be kind. If we abandon the refugees, we abandon ourselves, added the delegate from New Earth. Everything that makes us human dies the moment we turn away someone who needs help. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not comply with the council's demands. Captain Jake Morrison received the news aboard the USS Harmony. His crew gathered on the bridge as he read the government's response. The Human Federation respectfully declines the council's ultimatum. We will continue to provide aid to all beings who request it. We will continue to welcome refugees to our worlds. We will continue to mediate conflicts when asked. These actions define who we are as a species. Dr. Lisa Hayes spoke first. Jake, they have thousands of ships. Their technology is more advanced than ours. How do we fight the entire council? Commander Nick Carter studied the tactical reports. On his screen. Maybe we don't have to fight them. Maybe they're bluffing. Jake shook his head. Look at their history. The Kroner Empire has destroyed entire civilizations. The Scythic Consortium has starved whole worlds to increase profits. The Nexari Collective treats other species like laboratory animals. They're not bluffing. So what do we do? Lisa asked. Jake walked to the main screen and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, refugee families slept safely in human beds. Somewhere out there, beings who had never known kindness were learning what it meant to be treated with respect. We do what humans have always done when someone threatens our family, he said quietly. We protect them. The message went out to every human ship, colony, and outpost. Earth's final response to the council was simple and direct. We became who we are by protecting those who cannot protect themselves. If we abandon that now, we abandon everything that makes us human. The Human Federation stands ready to defend our principles and our people. On the Council homeworld, Vex Scoreth read the human response and laughed. It was a sound like grinding stones. They choose to fight us, he told his allies. 3 empires against 1 small federation. This will be over quickly. Zilrothok's mechanical arms gestured dismissively. Humans have been peaceful for 2 centuries. Their military is designed for rescue operations, not war. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who challenge the natural order, Ken Sirius agreed. Other species will remember why they fear us. The 3 leaders began mobilizing their fleets. They commanded millions of ships, billions of soldiers, and weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. Against them stood the humans, a species known for healing instead of hurting, for building instead of destroying. But in the deep files of galactic intelligence, buried beneath centuries of peace treaties and diplomatic records, lay older documents. Reports from humanity's first contact with alien species, military assessments from the early days when humans were still learning to trust others. One report, written by a long-dead Kroner scout, contained a warning that had been forgotten over the centuries. Humans are capable warriors when provoked. Recommend extreme caution in military engagement. Species demonstrates remarkable adaptability and technological innovation under pressure. The Council had forgotten this warning. They were about to remember why it had been written. Across human space, families said goodbye to loved ones. Parents kissed children. Partners held each other close. Everyone knew what was coming. The age of human kindness was ending. The age of human war was about to begin. The attack came at dawn on New Haven. Kate Williams was feeding the Altian children breakfast when the sky turned dark with Kroner ships. Tony Blake rushed into the dining hall, his face pale with fear. "Kate, get everyone to the shelters, now." The children looked up at him with wide eyes. They had seen those black ships before, on their homeworld. They knew what they meant. "Are the bad people coming back?" asked little Kelmoran, the Eltian boy Kate had taught to plant seeds. Kate knelt down and hugged him tight. "Don't worry. We won't let them hurt you." But even as she said it, she could hear the thunder of ships landing outside. Through the window, she watched Kroner soldiers in black armor marching through the colony's peaceful streets. The same scene played out across human space. Kroner battle fleets blockaded human worlds, while Nexari cyberweapons shut down communication networks. Scythic trade ships stopped all food and medicine deliveries to human colonies. Admiral Paul Rodriguez stood in Earth's command center, watching reports flood in from across the galaxy. His hands shook as he read each message. "New Terra is under siege. The Kroner landed troops 2 hours ago. Nexari hackers have shut down our defense grid on New Mars. The Scythic are jamming all trade routes. Our outer colonies will run out of supplies in weeks." Paul had commanded fleets for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The Council wasn't just attacking human military targets. They were going after civilians, refugees, anyone who represented human values. Dr. Lisa Hayes worked frantically in the USS Harmony's medical bay. Emergency calls came from every human world, but Kroner ships blocked rescue vessels from reaching them. "Jake, I'm detecting massive casualties on New Haven," she reported. "The refugees are being targeted specifically." Captain Jake Morrison felt rage building in his chest. These weren't military targets. These were families who had fled to human space for safety. Children who had learned to trust again. "How many casualties?" he asked. Lisa's voice broke. "Hundreds. Already. Maybe thousands." On New Haven, Kate watched in horror as Kroner soldiers dragged Altian families from their homes. The aliens she had helped learn to farm were being loaded into transport ships like cargo. "Where are you taking them?" she demanded, running toward a Kroner officer. The alien backhanded her across the face. Kate fell to the ground, blood running from her nose. Back where they belong, human. Back to the mines. Tony Blake tried to help her up, but a Kroner soldier pointed a weapon at him. Move and die. They forced Kate and Tony to watch as refugee families were separated. Children cried for parents who were being taken to different ships. The peaceful colony that had been home to hundreds of beings became a prison camp in minutes. But the worst was yet to come. Commander Vexkoroth himself arrived on New Haven. The massive Kroner general walked through the colony like he owned it. His red eyes glowed with satisfaction as he surveyed the captured refugees. These beings belong to the Kroner Empire, he announced through speakers that echoed across the colony. By harboring them, humans have committed theft. The punishment is death. Kate felt her blood turn to ice. No, they're just children. They haven't done anything wrong. Vexkoroth looked down at her. They exist. That is crime enough. The executions began an hour later. Kroner soldiers lined up Altian adults against the colony's main building. They forced human colonists and refugee children to watch. Kate held little Kelmaran as he screamed for his father. Tony Blake tried to break free from the guards holding him, but there were too many. Stop this, Kate begged. Please, kill me instead. Leave them alone. Vexkoroth smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. You will all die eventually, human, but first, you will watch the price of defying us. The energy weapons fired. 12 Altian refugees fell to the ground, their bodies smoking. Their children's screams echoed across the colony. Kate felt something break inside her chest. These beings had trusted humans to protect them. They had believed in human promises of safety and peace. Now they were dead because of that trust. Little Kelmaran collapsed in her arms, sobbing. You said the bad people couldn't hurt us here. You promised. Kate looked at the small body of Kelmaran's father lying in the dirt. The man who had cried when she taught him to grow food for his family. The man who had thanked her for giving his son a future. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. But Vexkoroth wasn't finished. Bring the human leaders, he ordered. Guards dragged Kate and Tony to the execution wall. More colonists were forced to watch as energy weapons were pointed at their heads. This is what happens to those who defy the Council, Vexkoroth announced. Let the galaxy see the price of human arrogance. The weapons charged up, humming with deadly energy. Kate closed her eyes and thought about all the families she had helped, all the children she had fed, all the hope she had tried to build in this place. Then the sky exploded with light. Human ships dropped out of hyperspace directly above the colony. But these weren't rescue vessels or diplomatic cruisers. These were warships, built for destruction and painted with symbols Kate had never seen before. The lead ship was massive, larger than anything in the Kroner fleet. Its hull was black metal covered in weapon ports. As Kate watched, it opened fire on the Kroner vessels in orbit. The Kroner ships returned fire, but their weapons barely scratched the human vessel's armor. Meanwhile, the human ship's guns tore through Kroner hulls like paper. Impossible, Vexkoroth snarled. Humans don't build ships like that. A new voice echoed across the colony. It came from speakers on the human ships, but it sounded like nothing Kate had ever heard. Cold, angry, deadly. This is Admiral Rodriguez of the Human Defense Fleet. You have 30 seconds to surrender before we demonstrate why humans chose peace. Vexkoroth laughed. Surrender to you. We have 10 ships to your 1. You had 10 ships, the voice corrected. Kate looked up to see explosions in the sky. The Kroner vessels were dying one by one, torn apart by weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. The last Kroner ship tried to escape, but beams of pure energy reached out from the human vessel and cut it in half. Impossible, Vex repeated. Your ships are for rescue and medical aid. Those ships are for rescue and medical aid, Admiral Rodriguez replied. These ships are for war. We built them hoping never to use them. You made us use them. Landing craft descended from the human warships. Soldiers in powered armor spread across the colony. But Kate noticed something strange about them. They moved, like Tony did when he was working on a difficult engineering problem. Calm, focused, efficient. They didn't look angry. They looked disappointed. The human soldiers surrounded the Kroner troops without firing a shot. Their armor was more advanced than anything the Kroner had. Their weapons were smaller, but deadlier. Kroner forces, you are guilty of war crimes, announced the lead human soldier. Surrender now, or be destroyed. Vexkoroth drew his sidearm and fired at the human. The energy blast hit the soldier's armor and bounced off harmlessly. That was a mistake, the soldier said sadly. What happened next was too fast for Kate to follow. The human soldier moved like lightning, disarming Vexkoroth and throwing him to the ground. Other human troops disabled the Kroner soldiers without killing them in less than 5 minutes. The entire Kroner occupation force was captured. Admiral Rodriguez landed and walked over to Kate. He was an older man with kind eyes, but Kate could see something cold and terrible lurking behind them. Are you hurt? He asked gently. Kate looked at the bodies of the dead refugees. At little Kelmaran still crying for his father. At the colony that had been turned from a home into a graveyard. They killed them, she whispered. They killed them just to make a point. Admiral Rodriguez knelt down and picked up a handful of soil stained with Altian blood. We know. We're sorry we didn't get here sooner. How did you have those ships? Tony asked. I've never seen weapons like that. Rodriguez stood up and looked at the captured Kroner soldiers. We've always had them. Every human world has them, hidden and waiting. We hoped we'd never need them. He turned back to Kate and Tony. We became peaceful because we chose to be, not because we had to be. The council made us remember the difference. Vexkoroth struggled against his restraints. You cannot win. We have millions of ships, billions of soldiers. Rodriguez walked over to the Kroner general. You had millions of ships. Check your communications. Vexkoroth activated his wrist communicator. The reports that came through made his face go pale. Kroner 3rd Fleet destroyed at Rigel Scythic. Trade stations captured throughout the Outer Rim. Nexari Collective surrendering on all fronts. Rodriguez smiled, but it was not a kind smile. We gave you peace for 2 centuries. We mediated your conflicts. We healed your wounded. We fed your hungry. And you repaid us by murdering children. He gestured to the dead Alteans. You wanted to remind us who we used to be. Congratulations. We remember. 6 months later, Kate Williams stood in the same field where she had taught little Kelmaran to plant seeds. The boy was still alive, but he no longer smiled. He no longer played with the other children. He sat by his father's grave every day and asked why the bad people had been allowed to hurt his family. Kate couldn't answer him. She could only hold him and try not to cry. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The Kroner Empire was gone, its leaders awaiting trial for war crimes. The Scythic Consortium had been dissolved and its assets distributed to the workers they had exploited. The Nexari Collective had surrendered completely after human ships demonstrated technology that made their best weapons look like toys. Admiral Paul Rodriguez arrived on New Haven for his monthly inspection. He walked differently now. His back was straighter, and his eyes were harder. The kind man who had once preferred diplomacy to war was gone, replaced by someone who understood that peace came from strength, not good intentions. How are the refugees adapting? He asked Kate. Kate looked around the colony. New buildings had been constructed to replace those damaged in the attack. The farms were producing food again. But something vital was missing. They're alive, she said, but they're not living. Paul nodded. He understood. The galaxy was safer now, but it was also colder. Human ships patrolled every trade route. Human bases had been established on strategic worlds. Human laws governed interspecies relations. The council chamber on the old homeworld was now a human courtroom, where once 3 powerful species had made decisions for everyone else. Now human judges decided the fate of war criminals. Chairman Vex Koreth sat in chains, waiting for his sentence. The proud Kroner general who had once commanded millions now begged for mercy he had never shown others. The tribunal finds you guilty of genocide, war crimes, and crimes against sentient beings, announced Judge Carol Bennett, a former human diplomat who had traded her peaceful robes for judicial ones. Please, Vex Koreth whispered, show mercy. Humans are known for mercy. Judge Bennett looked at the evidence displayed on screens around the courtroom. Images of dead Altian families, records of slave camps, documents ordering the execution of children. Mercy is earned, she said quietly. You had 200 years to learn it from us. Instead, you chose to murder those we protected. The court sentences you to life imprisonment. Vex Koreth was led away, and Judge Bennett called the next case. There were thousands more to process. On the bridge of the USS Harmony, Captain Jake Morrison watched patrol reports from across the galaxy. The ship still carried medical supplies and aid, but now it also carried weapons, advanced weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Dr. Lisa Hayes joined him at the observation deck. She still healed the wounded, but now most of her patients were prisoners of war or refugees traumatized by the conflict. Do you ever regret it? She asked. What we became? Jake thought about the question. Human space was larger now, stretching across most of the galaxy. Human technology was the most advanced in known space. Human law was the only law that mattered, but they had lost something in the process. I regret that it was necessary, he said finally. I regret that we had to choose between being good and being effective. Commander Nick Carter approached with the daily security briefing. The Altian representative wants to speak with you. Captain Kelmaron's uncle, one of the few adult Altians who had survived the massacre, entered the bridge. Talmaron was a broken man who spoke for a broken people. Captain Morrison, my people are grateful for human protection. But we wonder, when will we be allowed to return home? Jake exchanged glances with Lisa. This was the hardest part of the new reality. The former council worlds were too damaged to support life. The species that had depended on their homeworlds for centuries now lived as permanent refugees under human care. Your world is being restored, Jake said gently. Our terraforming teams are working to reverse the environmental damage from Kroner mining, but it will take years. Talmarin nodded sadly. We understand. We are grateful. But my nephew asks every day when he can go home. I don't know what to tell him. After the Altian left, Lisa turned to Jake. We saved them, but we couldn't save their happiness. Jake activated the ship's long-range communications and connected to Admiral Rodriguez on Earth. The Admiral appeared on screen, sitting in an office that had once belonged to human diplomats. Now, it housed the military command that controlled Galactic security. Paul, we need to talk about the refugee situation. These people are losing hope. Admiral Rodriguez rubbed his tired eyes. I know, Jake, but what choice do we have? Their homeworlds are uninhabitable. The species that oppressed them are gone. We're all they have left. They don't want to be dependent on us forever. They want their freedom back. Freedom, Paul repeated bitterly. We gave them freedom. We freed them from slavery, from oppression, from fear. But freedom has a price. Jake understood what he meant. The galaxy was free from the old council's tyranny, but it was also free from the messy democracy that had existed before. Human rule was benevolent but absolute. Human law was fair but final. Other species could live in peace, but only under human protection. They could trade freely, but only with human approval. They could travel anywhere, but only on human ships. Sometimes I wonder if this is what we wanted, Lisa said quietly. Jake thought about the early days, when humans first joined the galaxy. They had wanted to help, to heal, to bring different species together in friendship. They had succeeded, beyond their wildest dreams. But success had come at a terrible cost. Tony Blake worked in the New Haven Engineering Center, designing habitats for refugee families. His work was more important now than ever, as displaced populations from dozens of worlds needed new homes. But the joy was gone from his work. He built homes for people who had lost everything, including Hope. Kate found him there one evening, staring at blueprints for a new refugee district. "How many this time?" she asked. 300 families from the former Scythic territories. Their traders abandoned them when the consortium fell. Kate sat down beside him. "Do you remember when we used to build homes for people who chose to come here, people who wanted to start new lives?" Tony nodded. "Now we build homes for people who have nowhere else to go." Outside the window, they could see human patrol ships moving across the sky. The ships kept everyone safe, but they also served as a constant reminder of who was really in charge. "The children don't laugh like they used to," Kate observed. "Would you laugh if you were them? They've lost their families, their worlds, their futures. All they have left is our charity." Kate watched little Kelmoran sitting by his father's grave. The boy who had once been excited to learn about farming, now spent his days staring at nothing. "We saved the galaxy," she said softly. "Why does it feel like we lost something important?" Tony put his arm around her shoulders. "Because we did. We lost the illusion that being good was enough. We learned that sometimes you have to choose between being kind and being right." Back on Earth, Admiral Rodriguez stood before the memorial wall in the Hall of Remembrance. The wall bore the names of every being who had died in the war, human and alien alike. But it also bore another list, the names of human values that had died with them: innocence, trust, the belief that good intentions could overcome any obstacle, the faith that other species would eventually learn to be as kind as humans. "Sir," his aide, Colonel Janet Murphy, approached with the daily reports. "What is it, Janet?" "The Zephyrite delegation is asking for permission to establish a new colony in the Andromeda sector. They want to govern themselves without human oversight." Paul considered the request. The Zephyrites had been model citizens under human rule. They followed human law, paid their taxes, and caused no trouble. But allowing them independence would set a precedent. "Denied," he said finally. "They can have their colony, but under human administration." "Sir, they specifically requested self-governance." Paul turned away from the memorial wall. "What they want and what they need are different things, Colonel. We learned that lesson the hard way. As night fell across the galaxy, human ships maintained their patrols. Human bases monitored all communications. Human courts processed the last of the war criminals. The galaxy was at peace. Crime was almost non-existent. Poverty had been eliminated. Disease was a thing of the past. Every being had food, shelter, and safety. But in the quiet moments between the reports and meetings and administrative duties, humans asked themselves the same question that haunted Kate Williams and Tony Blake. Was this what victory was supposed to feel like? Chairman Vexkaroth had been wrong about humans. They weren't weak. They weren't naive. They were apex predators who had chosen to be shepherds instead of wolves. But when the sheep were slaughtered, the shepherds remembered what they really were. The galaxy was safer now. It was more peaceful than it had been in millennia. It was also colder, lonelier, less hopeful, as Admiral Rodriguez often said in his speeches to the remaining galactic representatives. "We offered you partnership. You chose war. Now you have our protection instead. Be grateful we still remember how to be merciful." The age of human kindness was over. The age of human justice had begun, and somewhere in a grave on New Haven, an Altian farmer who had died believing in human promises lay silent in soil that would never again know the laughter of truly free children.